Welcome everyone to another installment of To The Point with Greg and Grant. This is the podcast that gets to the point, stays on point, and makes a point. I'm sitting here with my colleague Greg Dermond. Greg, did you want to say hi?
Yes, I would. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of To The Point, and we appreciate you being here.
All right, and today's episode we are being joined by Dr. Nick Truncellito. He has an aerospace engineering degree and master's in aeronautics and astronautics from NYU, along with a doctorate from the University of Pennsylvania in mechanical engineering. Over his career, Nick spent 20 years at GE, 15 years at Lockheed, 6 years at Vencor, and another 3 in advanced energy systems. In the last 15 years of his career, he worked both as a manager and individual contributor relating to systems engineering development and other studies. Today, he will be discussing a number of different challenges in the aerospace industry, as well as the cost effectiveness that goes along with those challenges. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to the point. Nick Truncellito, right now.
What would you say would be the hardest challenge you faced in your career?
I would say that when you're faced with something that totally blindsides you, you're working on high-profile projects, and then all of a sudden an anomaly occurs, which no one ever predicted. And people may not understand what the root causes are. And going through the process of first kind of characterizing what the issues are, what the failures are in any given system, and looking at root cause, going through all the different possibilities, ruling out the ones that are not very likely, and then finally zeroing in on the correct ones, and trying to remediate that. Looking at not necessarily pointing fingers at individuals, because sometimes if someone didn't properly follow specifications, procedures, etc., that could have caused the issue, a hardware or a software failure, some combination like that. But looking to see how this could be prevented in the future for any future models of a particular system, as well as trying to remediate the current state of affairs. And many times that is a very daunting challenge, because you're looking, in many cases, to gather a team together and say, well, there are 5 different options that we could pursue that really make sense. Here are the pros, here are the cons. And again, be thorough with your homework. Make sure you've researched that and coordinated this with other teams, other contractors, other experts too, as well as your own knowledge and your own company's internal abilities, and come up with an overall recommendation to customers. Because they're going to look to you and say, yeah, that's nice, but what do you think?
Right.
What would you do in this situation? And what you do really has to take into account the cost of performance and the schedule that's involved, looking at the grand scheme of things. And that's a pretty potent challenge, especially when you're looking at entire systems. And in my latter part of the career, I was involved in systems engineering. And that was gratifying, because you get to learn about everything end to end. Sometimes a contractor might just be a very skilled part of an organization that knows much about component A, but you've got to know A through Z. And the impacts, if you tweak A, what happens to M, K, S, T, right down the road. So that I found to be very gratifying to enjoy, but also very challenging. And anomalies and problems like that can occur anytime when you least expect. Can have very serious impacts to several individuals and to companies also, because when things go wrong, someone always looks for an individual or a group to blame.
Those fingers get a little itchy to go in one direction. Well, Nick, a moment ago you had mentioned the concern of like staying on schedule, and so when you hear about all these different programs out there, you always hear about how they are over budget or they're over schedule. And in your opinion, over your career, would you say that there are some big repeat offenders with regards to the reasons why a lot of programs run over budget or run over schedule? Or is it very unique to the situation?
I would say that in many cases there are unexpected issues. You may have a game plan, just like in sports, and that might be fine based upon your assumptions, what you see, what you understand as to the given scenario. But in reality, there are other things that occur, and I believe as long as you can identify those issues and say, very honestly, say with your customer, we didn't plan for this. Okay, and honesty with the customer is really paramount, because once you lose credibility, the customer, even with your peers and your superiors, if you lose that, it's almost impossible to regain, or extremely difficult, and it's not going to occur in any short period of time.
We hear that theme, that recurring theme all the time. Honesty is truly the best policy when it comes to these things, and especially as you're trying to work out a situation where.
And in most cases, like I've seen, customers will be understanding because they have to report back to their superiors also. There has to be a reason why that would change. In other cases, I've seen really situations where people did not do their homework, and not necessarily within my organization, but other organizations that were key components of the overall project, the overall system. And in those cases, there might be repeat offenders, people that are not really doing their jobs, not accountable as much as they should be. And in time, they're definitely found out.
Right.
And they may lose contracts, and there may be very serious repercussions for that. And even if they are the only game in town, a vital contractor, they'll still suffer severe reprimands and perhaps impact to their work fees and overall grades, and impact the opinion that customers will have. And certainly customers talk, just like individuals talk, just like teachers talk. We'll talk about some of our students and the pros and cons. This one is an A student. Used to be a C student, right? Last year,
had to give
the lights went on, and he's been a rock star ever since.
So, taking a perspective now from the industry. So, and you gave great examples of personally how you came across and faced challenges and overcame those and some of those unique challenges. How about from the aerospace and defense industry today? What do you think are the unique challenges today?
I think the challenges that any company would face would be really cost. The government is looking to be as cost effective as possible, even though you don't always see that attribute in things that are done on the part of the government.
No, we don't.
But
do as I say, not as I do.
But the government will always look to technology and look to expertise and say, if you could accomplish this in X amount of time today with current expertise with Y amount of individuals, in 5 years, we expect you to do this in X over 3 amount of time with Y over 2 individuals, because they'll be better trained, you'll have better techniques, better computer skills, better models, better processes in place, that this is what we expect. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge that's thrown out to companies and to individuals, and it's something that you always have to address. And in many ways, it's a fair challenge too, because they're looking for for efficiencies. They don't, there's so many stories too about price gouging that occurs with so many companies, and that always gets, front page news one way or another, that taxpayers are getting ripped off. So that it's a great sensitivity, and showing cost improvement in many areas is something that's highly valued by customers.
From an industry perspective, are there certain areas where you see a larger amount of waste and inefficiency than other areas?
I haven't really seen that in my personal experiences.
Okay, that wraps up part 1 of our 2-part podcast with Nick Truncellito, where he talked about ongoing challenges in the industry. Join us next time, where he talks about current events and his thoughts about the industry today. Tune in with part 2 coming up, so please keep an eye out for that. Until then, take care.
The views expressed in this podcast are our own and not those of the companies we work for currently or previously, or of any person or organization affiliated or doing business with those companies.